the reaction from Trump's administration was swift. A number of his officials did appear on various cable news shows or network shows over the weekend. Mike Pompeo happened to be one of those officials, and he was tight-lipped about the recent New York Times article regarding Trump being investigated by the FBI in the form of a counterintelligence investigation because there was some concern that Trump is possibly working in the best interests of Russia over the best interests of the United States. So what did Pompeo have to say in response to all of this? Check it out.
What is your reaction to this?
I'm not going to comment on New York Times stories, but I'll certainly say this: the notion that President Trump is a threat to American national security is absolutely ludicrous.
Just to clarify, since you were CIA director, did you have any idea that this investigation was happening?
Margaret, I've answered this question repeatedly, indeed, on your show. The idea that's contained in the New York Times story that President Trump was a threat to American national security is silly on its face and not worthy of a response.
Okay, so the investigation aside, Trump is a threat to national security. He's a threat to national security at this very moment, with Russia not even involved. I'm not even considering Russia. We have a government shutdown right now, and we have TSA agents calling in sick in record numbers because they're not getting paid for their jobs. That is a national security concern. So yes, he's a threat to national security. But once you couple that with the fact that Trump is potentially looking out for the best interests of Russia because he could potentially have some sort of deal with them, yes, he's a national security risk. And Pompeo's smart in not elaborating further because he probably doesn't want to incriminate himself.
100%. When you hear someone not address the actual question and they just say, oh, that's ridiculous, that means I do not want to be put on the record denying this, because it likely is very, very much true. Because she asked a specific question. She didn't repeat her earlier question. She said, you were the CIA director, so you would know if that came across your desk. So did it come across your desk? Well, I answered this before. No, you didn't. She asked about when you were CIA director. You know, the idea is that Trump would be a national security danger is ludicrous. She didn't ask that. She asked, did you see that investigation when you were CIA director? And he didn't answer that question because he doesn't want to answer that question because likely he did see it. And so these guys like Pompeo, look, in terms of Rex Tillerson, I think that he was in one of those Putin meetings, the one in Hamburg. They sat there and Tillerson was the only one allowed other than the interpreter. So a lot of these, and then he eventually got super mad at Trump. And I think that he's worried that Trump incriminated him. And now he's got significant legal liability, right? But every one of these guys is in that situation. Pompeo, if he saw the report saying Trump might be a Russian agent and he was a CIA director and he ignored it, and then he became a Secretary of State, well then what is Pompeo? And so that's why when he's on TV, he's like, oh, ridiculous, ludicrous, just don't ask me again. Whatever you do not ask me again, because I will not answer on the record. Okay, I got it.
And finally, Kellyanne Conway also addressed the New York Times report. Here's what she had to say.
It sort of confirms what the president has said all along about some of the rogue actors at the very tippy top of the FBI who are no longer there because they were fired and worse. Some of them were deemed to be leaking and lying, sexting each other, obviously with their tremendous biases against this president. So I think it confirms what he has said all along.
So she's referring to Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. They were not the top FBI officials that took part in this counterintelligence investigation. Like, again, these are two separate issues and they're purposely conflating the two in order to make people think that this is nothing more than some sort of partisan attack on Donald Trump. It is not. The FBI debated whether or not they wanted to launch this counterintelligence investigation. And the reason why they did decide to do it is because Trump himself was publicly incriminating himself, especially when he called in Russian officials into the Oval Office and started bragging about how he fired James Comey because of the Russia investigation.
Okay, it's time for a Young Turks guarantee, okay? I guarantee you that Kellyanne Conway, after Donald Trump goes down, will come back around and go, guys, I never believed any of that stuff. It was so obvious. That's why I had my husband, George Conway, constantly saying that what Trump was doing was wrong and shameful and pointing out why it was wrong. You think it was a coincidence that my husband was saying all those things publicly? No, that was my way of trying to warn everybody. So I was actually a good guy. I guarantee she says that after the fact. Now let's note right now, as things stand today, that's not true. So if she thinks she's being clever by doing that, well, that's not clever, that's not interesting, because you are aiding and abetting Donald Trump right now, right now. Every time you go on TV and you lie on his behalf and you cover up his crimes, you are guilty of aiding and abetting him. Just having your husband tweet every once in a while does not make it any better. Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.